Cool. So hey, welcome, Mario. I just wanted to do a quick sort of Facebook Live meet, shoot something out for the new year for both our communities. For those who are part of my community or who don't know who I am, I'm the head of global education at the Think Life Institute for Social Impact, and also the chief catalyst of our global impact network, thinklife.org. And I had a really great chance to meet someone. We crossed paths. We're both in the Changemaker path. Mario, who's the founder of the Thrive Hub. So, today's gonna be all about change makers. The topics will be, generally about, moving to the new year. I want to engage the community around what it's like to be a change maker. I know a lot of you guys are already full-fledged change makers, but at the same time, also giving some insights around. We had some really great dialogue around aspiring change makers and what that's like. And I think, Maura and I had a chance to cross paths with one of his projects called Make Eco TO in his Thrive community, where Mauro deals with a lot of SDGs and really lean startup type of really cool projects around that. At the same time, we had a chance to talk about what it's like to get started and your feet wet around these things called the Sustainability Development Goals and what they mean. Is it for everyone? And I think today will be a good opportunity for us to share some of those insights with the community and I hope to really add value there. So Mario, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself around the Thrive community and Hub and how you started with your change making journey.
Yeah, thanks so much, Duncan. I guess it's a bit of a long journey, but I think I studied as an electrical engineer, and at that point I was really considering sort of solar energy, renewable energy, and how to sort of support the developing world. And across a few countries between Spain, Switzerland, the US, and Canada, I sort of rediscovered myself and decided that for me the most important is to sort of support I would say students, youth, and sort of young professionals. And when I arrived to Canada, I was trying to figure out, what is the best way to support youth and aspiring change makers. So as you know, earlier this year, I had Make Eco TO, which was focused on sort of getting some individuals together, young professional students who were interested in the environment and environmental issues in Toronto. And it was really the start of trying to support aspiring change makers who are specifically focused on the Sustainable Development Goals. And I want to just thank you, Duncan, because I know we've only met a few times, but it's always like a pleasure to talk with you, and you have such a vibrant energy, so I always enjoy our conversations.
Thank you, you're welcome. Now, I know one of the things that, I just want to, one of the really cool discussion points that we had the last time that I wanted to sort of further explore is really back to basics. I think we sometimes take it for granted, but from your viewpoint and for the audience out there is helping us identify with, to you, what is a change maker? I mean, it gets thrown around these days, change makers, social entrepreneurs, and, agents of change. I mean, I get a joke about this sometimes. I mean, sometimes, my mom could be a change maker, right? If she's making her son happy with dinner, she's doing a service or contributing to something important to her. What to use a change maker and how does it connect with maybe some of your experiences and what you've, I guess, connected with on your path with the Thrive community?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really, specifically for me, I think the focus is on the Sustainable Development Goals, and what I consider a change maker might be different to anyone else's definition, but for me it's really someone who's sort of dedicated to one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals and does perhaps a daily action, whether that's their career or something as simple as recycling. So I feel being a change maker has a bit of a scale. So it's sort of like, is it something, how do you change people around you or the environment around you? Is it a daily activity, sort of something you do maybe for an hour per day? Or is it something where on the other end of the spectrum where it's like your life is fully committed and every single moment you're sort of doing something related to it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting topics that I'm passionate about, really gets me going, is around this concept of leadership for change. I mean, I guess one of the questions I get asked many of the times, it's, way back in the day before change making, and I know people, see maybe like a philanthropic side, right? Like, I'm gonna donate some money, or make it like I'm gonna reduce, reuse, or recycle. And I think some of the things that I've come across as a social entrepreneur is change making for everyone. What is your viewpoint perhaps around a lifestyle or leadership when it comes to change making as a lifestyle choice?
Yeah, I think we had this discussion, believe last week, and I think a great example is something like movements, right, in history. So either if it's a movement in a specific country, for example, the Salt March in India that Gandhi led, right? If he would have gone alone to the sea, got some salt there, would it have had an impact? Probably not, right? Or what about MLK's famous speech in the US, right? If he had given that speech and no one was listening, would it have had an impact? So I think it's really a matter of perspective. Are you one of the leaders that are leading the change? Or are you one of the contributors, or some would say followers? And I think I read once like an article from Harvard, and leaders are important, but just as important are the people who are supporting that change, because without those supporters, change won't happen, right? So I think it's really important as a leader in making a change to really appreciate the people who are supporting you, and who, like in social entrepreneurship and change-making community, I think it's really important to have these collaborations like what we're doing right now, because our audiences are slightly different in age and profession. But I think the important thing is that we're both believing in the Sustainable Development Goals, and we both believe that a brighter future is possible, and we're, finding ways, maybe they're different, maybe they're similar, to work towards those. So to get back to your question, I think it really depends on yourself. Like, do you feel you really want to be a leader in the field? And then if you are a leader, just remember that if you want to be successful, then you have to really be caring about those people who are there for you and who are supporting you every step of the way. So, and then as a follower or contributor, just, know that you are important just as much, because without you, like, change is not going to happen. So that's, I guess, my perspective on, sort of contributor versus leadership.
Cool. And, like one of the, I guess from a entrepreneurship perspective, I know a lot of it, like the words entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, the word change maker has a little bit of an identity associated with it. I know there's a lot of beliefs that are contained with it. And even for myself, I mean, one of the platform that I speak is the Purpose Awakening, is, my true belief that there's something a lot deeper inside when it comes to being a change maker. It's not just, your regular, hey, I'm just going to go into university and get a degree in change making, and it seems to be some sort of occupation or a set of skills. When it comes to aspiring change makers, one of the open questions that I'm always exploring as well, and I would love to get your sort of perspective on it, is, what is change making like for newer generations, or even cross spectrum different generations? What's your experience behind it?
Yeah, I think there's different perspectives there. From my experience, I've seen individuals who are truly in it for making a difference, and they want to sort of have a lifestyle for it. And then there's some others where I feel maybe it's more of an image thing, right? And I feel just to be cognizant of that and see, okay, you know, is that person on a daily basis really walking the talk, right? In the sense of, are they doing the actions that really relate to what they're saying? So, for example, for you, you know, you have mentioned to me several times how important mental health is, and you, like, in your daily day, you always are trying new things, right? Mm-hmm. So if I were ever to say, like, you know, hey, someone asked me, do you know anyone who's like experienced in mental health and knows some suggestions? I'd be like, yeah, Duncan's a great guy, because, you know, he on a daily basis does it, he talks about it. So I think that's really important. And I think for sort of aspiring change makers, there's a lot of sort of, right, there's a lot of noise online, and it's really hard, even if you're looking at companies, right? Companies such as Lego or Apple or all these companies, they're trying to have this image that they are green. A great example is like Starbucks, where I think recently they said, oh, we have now straws that can be recyclable or biodegradable. But then the funny thing is, right, their cups have nothing, right? So it's sort of like, are they doing it just for the marketing aspect, or is it truly a company or individual that's truly committed? And I think that's important to, as change makers, to really be wary of that, because it is tricky to really find individuals who are truly committed, and also find individuals who, you know, you can collaborate with. And I think that's a challenge too, because in the social entrepreneurship change making space, it is difficult, right? Because your time is limited. So a lot of people, they have so limited time, especially if you're non-for-profit, you have more things to do than you have time for. So trying just to find, I think, the right individuals to connect with. And I think that's sort of the basis for the Thrive Hub, is really to try to build up a community of individuals who, you know, they're fully committed to the sustainable development goals. They also really want to learn from others, and they're also very open and willing to support others. So I think those are sort of the keys in the type of people that I want to be involved with, because I think you probably know this more than I, you have more experience, but I think the growth of any individual is sort of the supporting network that they have, right? So I think it's sort of like, right, a plant. If you have the right nutrients, the right sunlight, the right environment, then you can really grow and thrive. But otherwise, it's a bit of a challenge. And so I think for aspiring change makers, the sort of overall message I would say is, like, just try to connect with the right people, the right communities, the right organizations when you're starting off. Just to get the most out of it, and to really, put yourself in an environment that you can truly flourish.
Actually, that's really great advice. I want to sort of reiterate some of my thoughts that came out.
Sure.
You know, one of the, I think as community leaders, some of the challenges that I feel a lot of community leaders get is, you know, do we focus on those who are already, you know, change making? I mean, the ones that have gained that momentum, have gained that experience, have gained that traction. At times, you know, it's I don't call it a cop-out, but it's definitely slightly easier for resources, whether it's financial resources, social capital, trust, that type of stuff, to be fully supportive there. Now, at the same time, the challenge is, you know, when you're an quote unquote aspiring change maker, and you're going through that volatility of finding yourself and exploring and discovering where you really hone in. And what I really liked, what you said was connect to communities. I mean, it's sort of building your trust capital as well. Now, from your own experience, and I want to get into sort of the Thrive community right afterwards, it's what's your viewpoint on what's available in terms of support for aspiring change makers today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there are different resources out there. However, I think the challenge is that a lot of the resources out there, for example, like Startup Visa to Canada, right?
Mm.
That is only available like through an incubator, and most of the incubators only really accept individuals who truly have a business plan and have really like figured it all out, right? So I think the challenge in terms of finding the right resources is not that they're not there. It's more that a lot of the resources, like in Toronto, there's the Center for Social Innovation. However, I think most of it is really supporting individuals who already have their own projects. So I think the challenge there is really, there's Facebook groups too, but the thing is, like, how do you find that middle ground of a support network that has individuals who are experienced versus a support network where it's sort of everyone's sort of a newbie? So I think that's also a bit the focus on the Thrive community, to have a sort of good balance between change makers who have experience and sort of aspiring change makers who are really new to it. They might not even have a project. Maybe they're not interested in having their own project, but want like the chance to, join a project, right? So I would say like the resources are somewhat limited. There are some resources out there, but most of the time it's more for more developed projects, I would say, from my experience.
Cool. I mean, and just to share out to the community there, I know, when I first started my quote unquote change making journey, I mean, I never called myself a change maker. I just had a burning passion inside. Actually, I came in through burnout. It's a fall from grace, right? I came in from burnout. I was, I guess, quote unquote, success on my own merit when it came to achieving goals. But there was this deep sense of unfulfillment inside. I was burning up, and that, caused for me to start with some really deep self-introspection and self-reflection. And I know we both share that. And I would love to dive into some of your programs later. But even from my own experience and sharing out there for those who are, coming through into 2019 and sort of dabbling with this concept of, hey, you know what, I want to add more meaning to my life, or I want to do something that's more purposeful. It doesn't mean you have to go full-blown Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world type of the thing. And like Mauro talked about, you can start making small changes for yourself, having getting clear with a really simple message. I think it's one of the tips that I recommend, and two, I went through myself. Like, it can get pretty overwhelming when you want to, like, Nobel Peace Prize, right? Of course, everybody wants the world to change, especially in this turmoil and high volatility in the world today. But at the same time, it's, one of the mantras that I think was shared with me is change starts from within. And it's something that I've really held to heart. And I know it's also a crux or a core foundational piece as part of your programs as well. Perhaps, Mauro, why don't you share with, what's the Thrive community all about, and what are some of the programs that you're excited about?
Yeah, thanks for asking. The Thrive community and the Thrive Hub is still under development. However, the real idea at the core of it is, if you are, like we mentioned before, someone who's just starting out, who wants to sort of be involved with one of the sustainable development goals, but isn't really sure which one, quote unquote, the aspiring change maker, then sort of the first step is the Thrive Hub provides some resources. Right now, they're not as developed, but the idea is having videos like this available, having resources just to see what other people are doing. And then once you go into the community, once you're in the community, the great thing is that there will be sort of monthly hangouts where, for example, we would have hosts like yourself who are talking about one of the sustainable development goals, like mental health and well-being. And then sort of it's an open discussion that really engages individuals, because I find that sometimes the newer generation, they have a little bit of a challenge to connect with people in the, you know, and I think sometimes they focus a little bit too much on social media versus the one-to-one connection. So I think the Thrive community really wants to find an online platform to help engage. And I think further down the road, or maybe at the beginning, the idea is too that some of the hosts will have open projects that they will present. So maybe they will require help with social media, or they will require like a small project related to their bigger project. And then it's sort of like an engaging way for individuals, aspiring change makers, to connect with those people and see, okay, is it something for me? So they really can have an active way of trying out to see if that is for them. In the future too, I'm talking with one person from Pledges for Change, which is sort of a volunteer opportunity in Toronto and the surrounding area for individuals to have a meaningful volunteer opportunity. So I do want to sort of promote volunteer and internship opportunities on the platform. So I think the Thrive community in a nutshell is really a chance for aspiring change makers to connect and engage with change makers, and really even possibly support some of the change makers who have a beginning project or need a little bit of support. Because especially you and I know in the non-for-profit world, like there's always a limited cash flow, but there's always so many tasks to do. So I really want to also support some of those organizations who need, you know, a little bit of outside support. So I think what better way than to connect with individuals who truly want that experience. And I think that's sort of the base for it too, is I feel, having worked with youth and students throughout the world, I see that schools don't give a lot of opportunities to really experience a type of career or a type of, you know, experience to develop skills that are useful for a career and to really explore different opportunities. So the Thrive community is that chance to sort of engage, to have an opportunity to develop your skills and to really explore some of the sustainable development goals actively. And sort of further along the line, once it's ready, I also want to develop a mentorship program that really, you know, connects the right people, change maker to aspiring change maker. Because in my experience, and you might know this as well or have experience, but mentors have helped me in the past really to sort of figure out just like a little bit of guidance of where to go next. And then sort of the last and final sort of program or support that I want to offer aspiring change makers is career coaching. So for the new year, for example, I'm offering a program that really within roughly a month's time helps you develop a plan for the year. Because I feel you might have this experience too, but I think it's always important to set a sort of target or goal or aim for the end of the year and sort of break it down throughout the year, you know, like what do you want to achieve first? What's the next step, right? Because sometimes it's sort of like you have this big dream. I want the dream job, this dream career in, say, renewable energy, but you don't know where to start, you know? So is it doing research? Is it maybe even just figuring out what you want to do. So the program really aims to help you sort of self-reflect, explore some of the options, and then develop a plan for the new year, and helping aspiring change makers really develop a career path plan for the new year or their future. So those are a few of the ways that I want to support aspiring change makers. I am also very open to like people who want to help the Thrive community and say, well, I'm an aspiring change maker and I need this support. I think that's, like we said, with the sort of leadership followers, I've learned from multiple experience that I, as a leader, might have some vision of how I want to do it, but the reality is, unless I listen to individuals, then I have no clear way of truly how I can support someone. So I think that's just as important to hear, stories from aspiring change makers to see, how can I best support them? Because I might have some ideas and my own experience of what help I needed developing Thrive, but that might be way different than someone else. So.
Super cool. So quick recap for the audience out there. If you're an aspiring change maker and you're looking to build social capital, place to be, connect with Mario. If you're a more seasoned change maker and you want to convene, connect to a platform to convene, a really great place as well. And lastly, for aspiring change makers who want to consider, what it's like to have change making as a career path. I know, end of the year is always a great time for goal setting. It's a very, I think, a collective type of behavior we all go through. So definitely, one of the things I love to say is it's, when it comes to mental clarity is sometimes you can't see your own problems, and having somebody there to really give, that mirror, that perspective to engage your introspective process is very valuable, especially, both in my experience helping others and for those mentors who helped me. I think we can all come to agreement that it's a really important thing to do, and to come together as a community to support each other in those ways. So lastly, so all these great things, Mario, how do people contact you? I mean, what's your favorite channel of communication?
For me, at the moment, I see LinkedIn as a great platform where, really people who are serious about their career, that's where they are. So LinkedIn is a great way to connect with me. I do also use email and Twitter. So are also opportunities to connect. So I would say email and LinkedIn are the best way. Twitter also an option. I do have Facebook and Instagram, but I use those far less at the moment.
So your LinkedIn, Handy, can you spell your Mario, Mario, and your last name Krishner or
Christiner? So it's Christiner. It's Christ and then INER. I'm sure like we'll probably provide links as well to that.
We'll be providing links on our little chat bubbles and stuff like that. But in the meantime, connect with Mario on LinkedIn, and his email will be there. So once that's in place, we'll make magic happen. So any final maybe remarks or comments to the group before we call it an interview?
Yeah, I would say, like, if you are interested in sort of supporting one of the sustainable development goals, I think the best way is just to start looking into them and just start with something small, right? So I think it's always, like we said earlier, the change happens within. So even if it's, you help someone in need, right? Or you help a friend who has a problem, or maybe, you recycle or something like that, right? So as long as the change, I think sometimes it's a mental thing, and you probably can speak more about this, but I think if you want to change something, you also have to mentally change your approach to how you approach life, and how have how change of your lifestyle too. So I think that's a great way to start. And for sure, Duncan, you can maybe speak more about, mentally sometimes you might have some roadblocks, and I think you're the expert in that, of how to unroadblock yourself.
Yeah, so guys, for those who want to connect with me, I mean, one of the practices that I use is called mental emotional release. Really powerful stuff. I mean, we go deep. Phobias, anything that's really perpetually eats at you. As much as I love to say, goal set, have a positive vision, all that great stuff. If you're walking with a lens of limiting beliefs and decisions, and especially a lot of emotional baggage, this practice is a very effective practice that I can help you guys on, to clear up some of your lenses and get really deep really quickly, so that you can have all of that weight lifted off your shoulders and begin really a new perspective when it comes to pursuing perhaps a lifestyle of change making, or just going deep to let those things go so that you can definitely have a life that's that's more stress-free and enjoyable as a lifestyle. So yeah, I mean, and that's I hope the audience here had a chance to get a few tidbits of really great information. Please do connect with Mario. And for those who want to connect with me, I'm also on LinkedIn. You can type in Duncan So, Duncanso, or check out my school at www.thinklifeinstitute.com, and we have some really great programs out there for those who want to start their impact journey or go all the way through into social entrepreneurship. Cool. So Mario, thank you again so much for contributing some of your experience and time and your insights. I'm sure both our communities respectively will enjoy that very much crossing into the new year. So for our communities, signing out. And Mario?
Yeah, and I want to wish everyone a happy new year and all the best to all of you on whatever journey that you are with change and improving yourself.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Bye.